Today we're going to learn about one-point perspective. One-point perspective is a really easy way to be able to show great distance and to use some very easy rules that you can learn with no problems, and you're going to be a professional at showing long distance, far away distance. The first thing we're going to start with here is this horizontal line. It's called the horizon line. Get it? Because it's horizontal, it is the horizon. Now, the horizon line is typically where the sky meets the land. So in order for you to be able to remember that, we're going to just write sky. We're going to put some nice little fluffy happy clouds. And then we're going to write land. We're going to put some little sprigs of grass down here so that you remember exactly what you're looking at. Our plane, our visual plane, that's going real deep in space. So we're going to be able to remember that by looking at this. The next step in one-point perspective is to put the vanishing point. So the vanishing point is going to be somewhere on the horizon line. It does not matter where you put the vanishing point, but you only get one. So I'm going to put it right in the middle, and then I'm going to label it so that you can remember that this is the vanishing point. Now, the vanishing point is just that. It is the point where imaginary lines of perspective, they all go and converge together at the same point, and they disappear or vanish at that point. So again, it could be anywhere on the horizon line. That is a personal choice, but I put it right in the middle. The next step is we're going to use a two-dimensional shape, in this instance, a rectangle. We're going to put it above, on, and below the horizon line. So in order to draw a rectangle, we're going to use parallel lines. Parallel lines, remember, are lines that never meet. They run right next to each other and they never ever meet. So we're going to use two horizontal parallel lines, and we'll use two vertical, which is up and down, parallel lines, and that's going to make a nice little rectangle. Now for this particular example, I'm just tracing a little rectangle that I cut out so that it's a little bit faster. So there's one that is above the vanishing point or above the horizon line. Here's another rectangle that is on the horizon line. And this one is going to be different than the other one. And then the third shape, it's two-dimensional right now, it's just a flat rectangle, is going to be below the horizon line. So whenever you're drawing your example, make sure you do one above, one on, and one below the horizon line. Now, these are all three going to be solid objects, which means that you can't see through them unless it's made out of glass. So, in order to make sure that these are solid objects, I'm going to erase the horizon line on this middle one. Now the next step is to go from each corner and draw diagonal lines to the vanishing point. Every corner should line up to the vanishing point on each of our shapes. We call these convergent lines because they converge on the vanishing point. So you need to use a straight edge. A ruler is best, of course, but if you have a cardboard or notebook, anything that is a very straight line, and you're going to line it up with the corner and the vanishing point. Now hold it down so that it doesn't move, and see how that does line up. But I want you to be able to look at it visually and tell that it lines up to the vanishing point. So we're going to put these little imaginary dash lines here so that when you glance at it, you can see that it's going to line up. Now we're going to go to the next corner and do the exact same thing. I bet you know what's going to happen next. We're going to go to the very next corner and do the same thing. So just scoot your ruler over and line it up with the corner and the vanishing point and draw that line. Part of which is going to be a little dash line, little dotted line. So you can tell that your object does in fact line up with the vanishing point. Now this last corner is behind everything. If this is a solid object, you can't see it. So instead of drawing a solid line here, we're going to just do a dotted line so you can tell that that corner also lines up with the vanishing point, even though you can't really see it because this is a solid object. Now notice how everything gets smaller as it goes to the vanishing points. All these diagonal lines are called convergence lines because they converge at the vanishing point, all down to one little point. Now we need to make this be a completed object. So it started off with that rectangle at the front, which means that we just need to put a rectangle at the back to be able to finish it out. So what lines do we need to draw to complete the back of the object? Well, it's going to either be vertical or horizontal because that is the only lines that we've used to draw that rectangle. A vertical line here and a horizontal line there. So if you move that rectangle down, you just need to draw another vertical line there and a horizontal line there. And there you go, a finished object. Now, if you could see through this object with that last corner, we're going to add in the little imaginary lines so that if you could see the finished rectangle at the back of this little shape, this is what it might look like. It's a little bit smaller rectangle, just like you did at the beginning. So we did a horizontal line there, and we line up the corners. So look at the bottom corner and do that last vertical dotted line so you can see what the rest of the rectangle would look like. Line it up on that corner and do a vertical line. And there you go. A little rectangle and a larger rectangle. Notice how it changes sizes because you're converging to the vanishing point. It's actually getting a little bit smaller, and that shows us distance. The next step is to do the very same thing. You go from corner to vanishing point. You just line it up with your straight edge, and I do the little dotted lines to just show that it does in fact line up with the vanishing point. Scoot that ruler right over. You don't even have to pick up your ruler, you just scoot it, and then you draw however far you want that line to go, and then your little dash lines. So on this one, it is on the vanishing, it's on the horizon line. Do you see that? So since it's on the horizon line, you cannot see those last two corners. They're going to be behind the object. So you only really see that one side. So we just need one more line to be able to complete this object, and it is vertical, just like the edge of that rectangle. We're going to scoot it over, and we're going to draw a parallel line to match that that vertical line. And there you go. That particular shape is a lot easier, and since it's not see-through, we have to erase the horizon line right there. Now we're on to that third shape that is below the horizon line. So we'll go to each corner just like we did on the other ones, and we're going to line those corners up to the vanishing point. So you line it up the corner, you make it even with the vanishing point, and you draw your line. And then our little dash lines to make sure it lines up. Then you scoot your ruler. You don't even have to pick it up, you can just scoot it to the next corner, line it up with the vanishing point. You got to make sure they line up. Draw your little dotted line so that you know it lines up with the vanishing point. And then you can scoot it down to the next corner and do the same thing. Now again, that very last corner, you can't see it because this is not a see-through object. We've drawn from these three corners and there's only one left, and it would be invisible, so we're not going to draw it. Instead, we're going to close the object. Now notice how this is horizontal, so we're going to scoot our ruler down. We're going to repeat that parallel line right there. We're going to also make it horizontal. So drawing, we're going to repeat that same line. And then we're going to make the last line to close this object. This side for that edge is vertical. So we're going to repeat it. We're going to scoot it down, line up that corner because you have to make sure your corner lines up. We're going to draw a vertical line. And there you go. So now you've got three objects, all looking like they're going into the distance. All of your diagonals converge to the vanishing point, our lines of convergence on every single object. Now I can take my little rectangle and I can double check it and see that my vertical and horizontal lines, they all line up just like the original ones that I drew. They match. The last thing we really need to focus on is the difference in the three objects above, on, and below the horizon line. It's important to note that the horizon line is actually your eye level. So if you have something on the same level as your eye, you cannot see the top or the bottom. But if it's above your eye level, if something's hovering above your eye level, you can actually see the bottom of it. So on here, I'm going to write the word bottom because that's what we see on that shape. Now, if something is below your eye level, it's underneath your eye level, that means that you can see the top of that shape. So imagine if something is below your eye level, you'll be able to see the top of it. So that's the three different things that are very important about one-point perspective. You've only got one vanishing point, and then you can put objects anywhere in your visual plane. It does not matter. They all go to that one vanishing point. And that's it.